It's strange how desperation makes you blind to your own instincts. In the fall of 2022, I was 24, unemployed, and broke in every way except for the kind that leaves a paper trail. I'd just been let go from a small tech startup in Philadelphia, where I'd spent the last 8 months trying not to drown in 15-hour days and half-finished promises of upward mobility. I burned out hard. Management called it restructuring. I called it collapse. With no paycheck and rent looming over my head, I did what I had to do. Started flipping old electronics on Craigslist. I'd done it once or twice during college, but now it became my full-time hustle. Vintage turntables, old camcorders, even busted game consoles. I'd clean them up, patch what I could, and resell for a small profit. It wasn't much, but it helped. That and ramen. One Thursday night, after hours of scrolling through listings, I saw it. A Rurn Magnavox record player. Mid-century wood design looked like something out of my grandfather's living room. The price? $60, way too cheap. The photos were garbage, blurry, dim, and oddly angled, but something about it tugged at me, like nostalgia laced with curiosity. I messaged the seller, his name was Jack, said he was moving out the next morning and just wanted the record player gone. His texts were formal, too formal. Phrases like, "Please arrive promptly," and "the unit is located at the corridor's end." Who talks like that in a Craigslist deal? But I brushed it off. Weird people were part of the gig. I told him I could be there in an hour. He gave me an address off North 13th Street in Philly. I'd been near the area a few times. A little rough, but nothing I hadn't dealt with. I grabbed my keys, slid my multi-tool into my jacket pocket just in case, and hit the road. The apartment building was a red brick complex set back from the street. 3 floors, broken glass near the front steps, and a couple of kids kicking a soccer ball in the parking lot. Inside, the place was worse. Dim yellow lights flickering overhead, walls smeared with old handprints and no visible apartment numbers. Just doors, scratched, stained, and heavy with silence. I texted Jack, "I'm here. Which one?" His reply came fast. "Door at the far end. It's cracked open." I walked past a dozen closed doors until I saw one slightly ajar. A faint, warped melody drifted out, like an old record spinning too slowly. I knocked once. No answer. Against my better judgment, I pushed the door open and stepped inside. It was dark. A weak floor lamp cast light over worn carpet and peeling wallpaper. The blinds were broken, leaking streaks of orange from the sunset. Jack stood by the record player, waving awkwardly. He looked rough, gaunt, pale, his clothes clinging to him like he'd been sweating through them for days. "Hey, Jack, right?" I said. He nodded. "Yeah, that's it. Works fine. Want to test it?" I stepped closer but didn't touch it. Something felt off. Jack added quickly, "Room. Actually, before that, I want to show you something cool. It's in the back." Everything in me tensed. I'm kinda in a rush, man. Just here for the turntable." He forced a smile and turned toward a narrow hallway. "It'll just take a second." I hesitated. Then I followed him. The hallway felt longer than it looked, like the air thickened with each step. Fluorescent lights above buzzed quietly, but most were dead. The carpet squished underfoot, damp and uneven, and the smell, mildew mixed with something sharp and metallic, was getting worse. The room at the end was small and cluttered. It looked like a storage unit, not part of someone's apartment. Piles of old electronics, mannequin torsos, doll parts, random junk stacked against the walls. It smelled like wet paper and something worse, something decaying. In the corner sat a large, ancient-looking trunk, padlocked. Jack walked over to it and crouched. "This is what I wanted you to see," he said. "My grandfather built this. He was different." I stayed at the doorway. "Looks old." Jack didn't answer. He pulled a small, rusted key from his pocket and fit it into the padlock. Click. He opened the trunk. The creaking sound was slow and unnatural, as if the wood were reluctant to move. A wave of rot hit the air like a slap. I gagged. Inside, something large was covered with a stained yellowing sheet. The shape underneath looked human. Broad shoulders, slumped posture, motionless. "I should go," I said, stepping back. Jack kept staring at the trunk. His breathing had changed. Shallow, jittery. "They always leave before they see it," he whispered. "You don't have to be like the others." That sentence locked my spine in place. My skin prickled. I turned without replying, walked straight down the hallway, heart pounding so loud it drowned the hum of the record player. As I reached the front door, he called after me, "You'll dream about it anyway." I didn't look back. I made it to my car and slammed the door behind me. My hands were shaking too hard to fit the key into the ignition on the first try. As I pulled out of the lot, I realized I was sweating. My vision blurred like a film had coated my eyes. A metallic taste hit my tongue, and my stomach churned. Nausea rolled over me. I managed to drive 3 blocks before I had to pull over. The next thing I remember, it was dark out. My head leaned against the steering wheel. My phone buzzed. 3 missed calls from a number I didn't recognize. I sat up, confused and rattled. I smelled it again. That same rot from the trunk. Faint, but there. I drove home in silence, double-checking every mirror like I was being followed. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that trunk opening again, a little more than before. The outline under the sheet took on more shape, a face that wasn't fully there. In the morning, I went to the police. I told them everything. The trunk, the smell, the human shape, the building on 13th Street. I left out the hallucinations and the dreams. I knew how that would sound. They took a statement, said they'd follow up. I didn't expect much. A week passed, then 2. Nothing. Finally, I called the department to ask if they'd checked it out. The officer on the phone sounded bored. "Yeah, we sent someone," he said. "Say nobody's lived there for at least a month." That unit was vacant, no furniture, no tenant. "Neighbors," I said. The door was open. There was a guy there. Jack. The officer sighed. "We double-checked. There's no unit 313. That building ends at 312. I hung up, but I wasn't done. I convinced a friend to come with me one evening. We went back to the building. Same kids playing soccer. Same cracked steps. Same flickering lights. Only this time, the hallway ended at 312, a solid wall where I swore I'd walked through. No door, no Jack, no trunk. It's been almost a year now. I haven't flipped a single item from Craigslist since. Sometimes I still catch that smell, rotting, wet, sour, when there's nothing around to explain it. I wake up from dreams drenched in sweat, heart racing, and the image is always the same. The trunk, opening slowly, and something inside beginning to move. I've tried therapy. I've tried ignoring it. I've even tried chalking it up to stress, trauma, exhaustion. But nothing fits. I was there. I saw that room. I smelled it. I felt it. And I believe Jack wasn't trying to sell a record player. I believe he was trying to pass something off. Something heavy. Something cursed. Something that needs to be seen. I just happened to walk away. Barely. Not every opportunity is meant to be pursued. Some doors, especially ones already cracked open, are better left closed. Trust your instincts. They might be the only thing standing between you and something you can't unsee. Some chapters in life begin as a whisper. You don't realize they've started until you're already too deep to turn around. In November 2021, I was 21, living alone in a modest second-floor apartment on the east side of Salem, Oregon. Unit 4B. Rent wasn't cheap, especially for someone juggling school and a part-time job. I was studying digital media at a community college and working evenings at a cozy bookstore cafe downtown. I liked the job well enough. Free coffee, quiet regulars, shelves that smelled like warm paper. But the pay barely covered rent, let alone groceries, bills, or my mother's medical costs back in Idaho. I stumbled into content creation the way most people stumble into bad decisions. Desperation dressed up as curiosity. A classmate I barely knew joked one day about how her OnlyFans subscribers were paying for her car. I laughed with her, but that comment stuck with me. A few nights later, I made an account under a fake name. Vera Velvet. No face, no nudity, just soft glam, artsy photos and videos. It felt anonymous, harmless even, like acting, performance behind a paywall. It wasn't long before I built a small but loyal following. I kept it all separate. No face, no real name, no location tags. I didn't even tell my friends, especially not my ex, Kyle. We had dated on and off for years. He had a temper and an unsettling way of thinking I still belonged to him. At some point, I realized fans wanted more than videos. They wanted physical things, props, notes, worn items. So I got clever. I started a Craigslist page under yet another alias. It wasn't for advertising myself, just to sell used costumes and accessories. That way I could bypass the platform fees. It was weird, yes, but it paid. People wanted anything that felt personal, like owning a piece of someone they didn't know. One buyer stood out, a man going by CJ. He was polite, always paid in advance, and never asked for anything overt. He ordered a hoodie I had worn in a video. Sent payment, sent a P.O. box in Eugene. It felt strangely normal for how abnormal the whole situation was. Then came the wish list. I made it on Amazon under another alias. It seemed safer than accepting direct gifts. I kept it simple. Dog treats for Bean, my rescue mutt, some camera gear, snacks, nothing flashy. I never linked it publicly. I only shared it in private messages, and only a few times. But someone had found it, someone I hadn't sent it to. The first box arrived on a Thursday. No return address. Inside was a chew toy and Bean's favorite peanut butter biscuits, items from the wish list. I assumed it was from a fan I forgot I shared the list with. Sweet, right? 3 days later, a second box appeared. A lighting kit I'd added only 2 days before. No note. Still no name. That was when my stomach dropped. Because I hadn't shared the list again, not recently, not at all. Yet someone had it. And they were watching it closely enough to know when I added new items. I tried to play it cool at first. Maybe it was CJ or someone who guessed my wish list. Maybe it was a coincidence. Amazon had weird bugs sometimes. I wanted it to be nothing. But then, I found the envelope. It was slid under my door, tucked just enough to be noticed. Plain white. The handwriting on the outside was shaky but deliberate. For Vera Velvet, always watching, always thankful. Inside was $100 in crisp bills, no note, just money. The kind that's supposed to be appreciated, not questioned. My body went cold. I read it again and again, hoping it would change. I called Kyle. He lived 5 blocks away and still clung to the fantasy that we'd get back together. Normally, he jumped at any excuse to see me. That night, he just laughed. Probably just a simp, he said. Take the money, buy Bean some food, chill. I didn't chill. I couldn't. That night, I taped over my laptop webcam, shut down all my OnlyFans posts, deleted the Amazon wish list. I set my Craigslist replies to auto-delete. I even turned off my location settings and removed all XIF data from every file on my hard drive. For a week, things went quiet. No packages, no envelopes, no notes. I started to breathe again. Thought maybe it was over. Maybe I'd scared him off. But then I saw the car, a gray sedan parked across the street from my apartment complex. No lights, no movement. Just sitting there when I came home from my evening shift. I stayed in my car, pretending to scroll through my phone, trying not to stare. I waited 10 minutes. The car didn't move. The person inside didn't get out. I couldn't see their face, just the silhouette of a figure in the driver's seat. Eventually, I forced myself to go inside. I locked every door, blocked the windows, kept the lights low. That night, I didn't sleep. Every creak in the wall sounded like a footstep. Every shadow moved when it shouldn't. The mailbox was next. It was a Wednesday night. Cold, foggy. I got home late and went to check my mail. Habit, really. That's when I saw it. The mailbox door was bent open, jagged at the edges like someone had pried it with a crowbar. The inside was empty. No junk mail, no flyers, nothing. Just metal and the chill of night air. I called the apartment manager first. She said the building's security cameras had been down for 3 days because of a storm. She promised to get it fixed. I didn't believe her. Then I called Kyle again. He answered mid-crunch of sunflower seeds, barely listening. "If you're that scared, just stop doing all that online stuff." "I already did," I said. "Then stop giving out your energy to strangers, V. You're always in your head." I hung up before he could say more. I was tired of being told I was imagining things. This wasn't in my head. Someone was testing how close they could get. 3 days later, my car was broken into. I found the window cracked, not shattered, and the passenger door slightly ajar. The only thing missing was my DSLR camera and the SD cards inside it. Nothing else was touched, not even the cash in the glove box. I filed a police report. The officer was young, polite, detached. He listened but didn't seem surprised. "You might have left the door unlocked," he said. "I didn't," I replied. "Well, there were no fingerprints, no security footage either. These things happen. Just be careful who you meet online." That was all they could offer. I moved out the next week. I didn't tell Kyle. I didn't even tell my landlord. I just packed what I could, left my key on the kitchen counter, and drove to Eugene to stay with my aunt. She thought I was visiting for a break from school. I let her believe it. She had enough to worry about: bad joints, bills, and a mountain of unopened mail. I didn't change my number, but I wiped everything else, deleted all my online accounts, erased any trace of Vera Velvet from the internet. I even threw away the phone I used for Craigslist deals. Bean adjusted quickly. I didn't. It felt like a relief for a few days. Quiet mornings, walks with Bean, dinner with my aunt, no late-night knocks, no strange cars, until I saw it again. One morning, after walking Bean through the wooded park near my aunt's place, I returned to my car and found a piece of paper tucked under the windshield wiper. It was an envelope. Inside was a printed screenshot, one of my old Craigslist replies. The text was simple, time-stamped, and signed at the bottom. "Always watching." I stood there, heart racing, the leash slipping from my hand. I looked around the empty trail, the car, the trees. No one was there, but he had been. I've thought about changing my name, thought about leaving Oregon completely. But part of me knows this isn't about geography anymore. This is about being seen, about someone watching from the shadows of the internet, someone who stepped off the screen and into my world. And the worst part is I invited him in without realizing it. All it took was a wish list, a few packages, a name that wasn't mine. I don't post anymore. I keep the blinds closed. I check locks 3 times before bed. Sometimes I still see that gray sedan, never moving, always waiting. I never told my aunt what really happened. She asks why I don't go out much, and I just say I'm applying for internships out of state. She nods and offers me tea. I smile and thank her, but I keep one eye on the street. Because I don't feel like I escaped. I feel like he followed. The internet gives you a mask, but not protection. Every click is a breadcrumb, every post an open door, and some doors once opened can never be shut again. Know what you're trading for attention, because someone might be watching long after the spotlight fades. I was never the type to take dumb risks. Not the thrill-seeking kind, not the rule-breaking kind either. After high school, most of my friends scattered, some off to college, a few into warehouse jobs, and 1 or 2 into trouble I didn't want to touch. I stayed in Grand Rapids. I moved back in with my dad after graduation. He gave me the upstairs bedroom and asked for help with the bills. I didn't argue. It wasn't glamorous. I worked part-time at a discount furniture store off 28th Street, unloading recliners and assembling flat-packed dining sets for minimum wage and a sore back. I didn't complain. I was saving up to start at the local community college in the fall. Life wasn't exciting, but I was trying. I just wanted to keep my head down, help my dad out, and make slow progress. Earlier that March, after 2 months of saving nearly every check, I bought myself a newer laptop, something faster, lighter, better for school. My old one had been with me through all 4 years of high school, a scratched, dented, sluggish chunk of tech that groaned every time I opened a browser tab. But it still worked. So I listed it on Craigslist. Figured I'd get a little money back, maybe help someone else out too. I took a few clean photos on my phone, wiped the hard drive, and posted it for $500. I listed the specs honestly, and by that same evening I got a reply. The guy's name was Corey. Said he was buying it for his cousin. Asked normal questions, battery life, memory, condition. Nothing felt off. Until I suggested we meet at the Starbucks 5 minutes away, and he texted, "Any chance I could come by your place instead? I don't drive. My friend is dropping me off. Won't take long." Something in me hesitated. I don't know why I didn't just say no. Maybe I didn't want to lose the sale. Maybe I didn't want to seem paranoid. We'd had people stop by the house for garage sales. My dad sold tools out of the garage sometimes. It felt casual, so I texted back, "Yeah, that's fine. Just ring the doorbell." Friday afternoon, around 3:40, a rusted gray Nissan pulled up in front of our house. I saw it from the kitchen window. 2 guys got out. I wasn't expecting that. Corey was the first one to the porch. Hoodie pulled up, smile too wide, eyes that darted behind me as I opened the door. "You Luke? Thanks, man. Appreciate this," he said quickly. The taller guy behind him didn't speak. He just followed inside like he already belonged there. They both kept their hoods on, even though the sun was out, and it was easily mid-50s. Warm for March. I tried not to let it bother me. "Laptop's in here," I said, leading them into the kitchen. Corey sat down at the table, and I opened the laptop, powered it up, showed him the basics. He nodded along, barely looking at the screen. The tall guy stood silently by the fridge, eyes scanning the kitchen, the counter, the photos on the wall. Then he finally spoke. "Hey man, can I use your bathroom real quick?" It was a simple question, one anyone might ask. But something about how he said it, it wasn't polite or sheepish. It felt like a statement, like he was informing me rather than asking. I gave a slow nod and pointed down the hall. "First door on the left." He disappeared. No thank you. No glance back. The silence after that was loud. I tried to keep the conversation going with Corey, answering his lazy questions about the laptop. But he didn't care. He kept glancing down the hall. 5 minutes passed, then 10. "So, you think he's okay in there?" I asked, trying to stay casual. Corey shrugged. "Probably just checking his hair or whatever. He's chill." I stood up, half laughing. "Yeah, I'll go check." That's when his hand came down on my wrist. The grip wasn't hard, just firm, like a hand on a steering wheel, steady and controlled. "Nah, he's fine. Chill. You don't gotta do that." I yanked my wrist away before my brain even registered the fear. That was the moment everything in my gut turned. All the alarms I'd been ignoring suddenly screamed in unison. "What's he doing upstairs?" I demanded, stepping back. Corey's friendly act disappeared. He stood too, blocking the hallway without saying a word. I didn't wait for answers. I turned on my heel and bolted down the hall. Not toward the guy, but to my dad's office room at the far end. It was the only room with a door that locked. My dad still kept a landline in there, a leftover from before we all had smartphones. I slammed the door, locked it, and grabbed the phone. My fingers shook so bad I misdialed the first time. Second try, I got through. 911, what's your emergency? There's 2 guys in my house. I said, trying to keep my voice from cracking. Asked to use the bathroom. He's upstairs. I didn't let him go up there. One of them, is the door locked? Yes. I'm in an office. They don't know I'm calling. Please hurry. Outside the door, I could hear low voices. Movement. Cabinets being opened. One of them stepped heavy across the floor above me. My dad's room. Then the footsteps stopped. Silence. A tense, stretched silence like the air before a storm. I waited, my hand still on the phone. A voice inside me kept whispering, "Do not come out." Then I heard the front door slam, a second slam, tires squealing away. The officers arrived 12 minutes later. By then, I'd unlocked the door and met them outside. My hands were still trembling. I walked them through the house, heart pounding in my throat. Drawers were left open upstairs. My dad's emergency stash, gone. And worse, my mom's jewelry box was missing. A small blue velvet thing she had left behind when she passed. My laptop too, obviously. They took my statement, asked if I had any photos or texts. I gave them everything. The phone number Corey used was already disconnected. Turns out it was from a burner app. The license plate on the gray Nissan. Stolen from another car. No leads, no fingerprints. I sat at the kitchen table that night staring at the spot where Corey had pretended to look at the laptop. The same table where I'd eaten breakfast every day since I was 6. It suddenly felt different, smaller, vulnerable. My dad got home 2 hours later and listened in silence as I told him everything. "You let them in the house?" he asked quietly. I nodded. "I'm sorry, I didn't think..." "You didn't think, that's the problem." His voice was hard, not yelling, but worse in a way. We changed the locks the next day. He installed a camera over the porch, one of those motion-detecting kinds. We kept the landline in case of emergencies. He never brought it up again. But the disappointment stayed in his eyes for weeks. I stopped selling anything online after that. I deleted my Craigslist account, blocked the burner number, and ignored the email follow-up from someone else interested in the laptop. I couldn't even open my inbox without thinking of Corey's hand on my wrist. A few weeks later, I found a photo of my mom wearing one of the necklaces they stole. She was in her garden, smiling with her hands in the dirt. I stared at it longer than I should have. I couldn't explain why, but losing that necklace hurt more than losing the laptop. I didn't tell anyone else what happened. Not my friends, not co-workers, but whenever I see someone online saying pickup only or giving out their address casually in messages, I feel this twitch in my chest. I want to say, "You don't know what's coming." Because I didn't, and it almost cost me more than a few things. If Corey had shut that office door, if the tall guy had come downstairs with something worse than jewelry in his pocket, if they'd noticed I was on the phone. That's what I think about most nights. Not what happened, but what almost did. Never assume your own home is safe just because it's familiar. Boundaries matter. One moment of convenience can turn into regret that lingers for years. Trust your gut. If it feels wrong, it probably is. Probably. People talk about rock bottom like it's one moment, a sudden fall, a clean crash. But for me, it was quieter, slower, like water leaking under a door. You don't notice it until your socks are wet, and by then, the damage is already done. By the time I turned 31, I'd long since let go of whatever I thought I was supposed to be. College dropout, failed barista, someone who once talked about social justice in freshman seminars and now couldn't hold a conversation without sweating. My last job, at a bakery cafe, ended after I had a panic attack during the breakfast rush. My boss had said it gently, with that customer service smile still on her face. "You're not in the headspace for this." She wasn't wrong. I moved into a friend's spare room a few weeks after that. The room had no door, just a curtain, one mattress, a suitcase, and a shelf. I spent most of my days horizontal, staring at my phone screen, scrolling through Craigslist, not even looking for anything specific, just reading. Lost pets, missed connections, cheap furniture and curb alerts, Job gigs that sounded fake. There was something raw about it. Human. Like walking through the back end of a city no one wants to talk about. One Sunday I saw a listing that felt different. It read, "Need help organizing an old house. Flexible hours. Tea, stories, and snacks included." And then at the bottom, "If you're the quiet kind, we'll get along great." I stared at it for a long time. I hadn't had a real conversation in nearly a month. Just the thought of someone wanting my presence, without demanding energy or performance, felt like sunlight breaking through a closed blind. So I replied, no resume, just a line that said, "I'm quiet, and I could use the work." Walt messaged me back less than 20 minutes later. His house was tucked on a tree-lined street near Seneca Park, surrounded by weathered homes and gardens half claimed by ivy. The kind of place you walk by and wonder who lives there, if anyone. I arrived at 2:10 p.m. Walt opened the door before I could even knock, like he was waiting. He was maybe mid-70s, with neatly combed white hair and thin glasses that made his eyes look larger than they were. He wore a cardigan with patches on the elbows and had the kind of posture that made you think he'd been a teacher once. "You're younger than I expected," he said. "You're less intimidating than I expected," I replied. He smiled, a quiet, knowing smile. We were both misfits of some kind, and in that moment, it worked. Inside smelled like lemon oil and mothballs, with layers of old books, dried flowers, and tea leaves tucked somewhere in the corners. The living room was dim but warm, with thick drapes and an upright piano covered in lace. He poured me tea before we even started. The work was simple. He wanted to go through boxes that had been collecting dust for decades. Most of them were in the attic, or tucked in corners of rooms he hadn't used in years. He said his wife had been gone a long time. She never liked parting with things, and he told me. Everything held a story, and that's how we worked. Quietly, slowly, sorting things by hand. Old photographs, yellowed notebooks, costume jewelry from the 1960s. Sometimes he'd tell me stories about an item. Other times he'd let it pass in silence. There was something peaceful about it, like meditating without closing your eyes. By the third visit, I started showing up without hesitation. He tried to pay me once. I refused. "I just like being useful," I told him. He didn't argue, just nodded. But something about that house was changing. Or maybe I was. It was the little things that started to whisper to me. The house had 3 closets in the main hallway. 2 of them we'd cleaned together. But the third, just past the bathroom, was always shut, always locked. I asked about it once casually as I moved a chair away from it. "That one's private," Walt said. His voice didn't rise, but it dropped something in tone. Final, cold. I didn't push. Another time I found a box labeled Julia's School Things. When I opened it, it was packed with dozens, maybe hundreds, of women's scarves. Silk, cotton, floral, patterned, plain. Most had labels on them, handwritten names on masking tape. None of them said Julia. That box didn't feel like nostalgia. It felt like something else. Later that day, I stood in the hallway longer than I meant to. The locked closet seemed closer than it had before. I remember Walt stepping up behind me. "You organizing ghosts now?" he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I laughed it off. But things shifted after that. He always seemed to know exactly where I was in the house, even if I didn't make a sound. He stopped mentioning his wife altogether, and his stories became more fragmented, harder to follow. His teacups were always perfectly clean, but I never saw him wash them. I started feeling watched, even when I was alone. But I kept going back, because some part of me still liked the routine, or maybe because I didn't have anywhere else to be. It was a Tuesday afternoon when I accidentally knocked over a ceramic bowl on the mantel. It shattered against the wood floor. Walt was in the kitchen and I froze, already apologizing. "I'm so sorry, I'll clean it up." He didn't move right away, just stood there drying his hands on a towel. Then he said, almost to himself, "Accidents always come before disobedience." He turned to me with that same smile he always wore. But this time, it looked like it was hiding something. "But we're not disobedient, are we?" I gave a nervous laugh. "No, sir." That night I couldn't sleep. I dreamed I was locked in that hallway closet, the smell of perfume closing in around me, dozens of scarves knotted around my face. I woke up gasping. The next time I went to Walt's, the front door was unlocked. He was waiting by the closet. "Thought today we could sort this one," he said, holding a ring of keys in his palm. My throat went dry. I'm not feeling great, actually. Head's fuzzy. Rain coming, maybe?" He didn't look mad, just disappointed. "I thought we were building something real here." I nodded, heart pounding. "We are. I just need a little rest." I left, trying not to sprint down the steps. That night I sat in my friend's apartment and typed his address into Google. I didn't know what I was looking for. I found it in the archives of the Rochester Times, a missing persons report. 6 years ago, woman named Hannah Marks, last seen near Seneca Park. Her photo showed her wearing a pale green scarf with a gold pin. That exact scarf had been in the box labeled Julia's school things. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't report anything either. I told myself I didn't have proof, just impressions, half-truths. But I knew. I never went back. I deleted Walt's contact info, blocked his email. Every once in a while I'd imagine him standing in that hallway holding his keys, wondering why I hadn't returned. Some nights I still check Craigslist. It's a reflex now, one I can't quite break. And sometimes I see it again. Same ad, same words. Need help organizing an old house. Flexible hours, tea, stories, and snacks included. If you're the quiet kind, we'll get along great. Different email, always. But the words never change. And I wonder, how many other quiet kinds never asked about that closet? How many people needed something, belonging, a purpose, even just a little peace, and found him instead? The scariest part wasn't the scarves, or the locked door, or the way he moved silently through that house. It was how safe I felt at first. That's the danger we never talk about enough. Sometimes the darkest things don't feel like danger when you're starved for kindness. Desperation can make danger look like comfort. When someone offers warmth with conditions you can't name, listen to the part of you that flinches. Curiosity has its place, but so does caution. Not every locked door needs to be opened. Some people find therapy in church or group sessions. For me, it was sandpaper and varnish. 3 years ago, I hit what you'd politely call a turning point. My marriage ended on a Thursday afternoon after 10 years of slowly dissolving love. We both cried a little. She left with the dog and I kept the house, an old paint-chipped fixer-upper just outside Bozeman. At 38, I found myself alone in silence that rang loud. I work from home as a content editor, mostly boring stuff, copy polishing, grammar checks, making corporate blogs sound human. But it's steady. What kept me sane, though, was refinishing furniture. Mid-century pieces mostly, the kind with clean lines and wood that felt alive when you touched it. There's something deeply comforting about sanding down damage, smoothing splinters, and bringing something broken back to life. I'd scour estate sales and Craigslist every weekend looking for hidden gems. I liked pieces with history, things left behind, forgotten. Maybe that's because I felt like one myself. One Thursday morning, I saw a Craigslist post that caught my eye. Leaving town, free toys and small furniture left behind. Come by and take what you like. There was a photo of a small oak kids' table, sturdy legs, worn top, beautiful grain hidden under grime. I messaged the number listed. Still available? I'd love to pick up the table. A guy named Mark replied within 10 minutes. Take whatever you want, we're out by noon. He gave me the address, 269 Juniper Hollow Drive. I didn't recognize the street, but Bozeman's full of hidden little corners, especially as you drift toward the trails. I made a note to stop by Saturday morning before my usual sanding session. That was the plan. Simple. Until it wasn't. Juniper Hollow turned out to be a quiet cul-de-sac tucked near the sourdough trailhead. Pine trees leaned over split-rail fences. Lawns were half-kept, like people had either just moved in or stopped caring. The house, 269, looked like any other. 2-story, pale blue with white shutters. A row of cardboard boxes lined the curb. The oak table I'd seen in the photo leaned against the garage wall along with a few toddler toys. I parked at the curb, got out, and knocked on the door just to be polite. No answer. But the front door was cracked open. Not wide, just enough to show shadow. I hesitated, then texted the Craigslist number. "Hey, I'm here. Looks like you've already gone?" A response came immediately. "Yep. Just grab what you want. Garage door is open too. Thanks again." That seemed fair enough. I walked through the gate into the garage. It was mostly empty. Some beat-up toys, a broken stroller, plastic tubs that looked like they were full of nothing but dust. I was bent over, checking the table's legs when I heard it, a soft thud, followed by something rolling across a hardwood floor above me. I froze. "Hello?" I called. "Just here for the Craigslist pickup." No answer. Another sound. A creak, almost rhythmic. Not loud, but intentional. I stood up, unsure. Maybe someone was still inside. A kid? A neighbor? I don't know what I expected, but my feet started moving toward the open front door before my brain could tell them not to. The house was dim. The walls had pale rectangles where family photos used to hang. In the kitchen, dishes still sat in the drying rack. The air smelled faintly of vanilla, like those store-bought baby wipes. I stepped lightly across the floor and headed up the stairs. The second floor was colder, not cool, like a drafty room, unnaturally cold. The kind of cold that doesn't make sense in August. I paused at the top of the stairs. There were 4 doors, but one stood half open at the end of the hall. Inside, pastel pink walls, faded stickers, and silence. That's when I saw them. Dolls. Maybe 30 of them, sitting shoulder to shoulder on a small child's bench under the window. All of them facing the doorway. Their eyes, painted, glass, or stitched, locked on me. Their hair was matted, some with bald patches or broken limbs. In the center of the room sat a single wooden rocking horse swaying gently. Back and forth, no wind, no open window, just movement. I didn't move. I didn't even blink. My pulse roared in my ears. I whispered, "Hello?" Nothing. I backed up slowly, refusing to turn my back on that room. I walked backward down the hallway, down the stairs, through the living room, and out the front door. When I hit the driveway, I remembered the table and grabbed it out of spite or stubbornness. I don't know. At home, I unloaded the table and left it in the garage. I didn't even look at it that day. That night, sleep was thin. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those dolls, and the way the rocking horse moved like something invisible had just climbed off it. The next morning, I decided to start cleaning the oak table. Something about pretending life was normal helped. I flipped it over to check the joints and noticed a name carved in block letters beneath the top. Lila. Just that. No date. No last name. Like a child had etched it with a dull knife. Didn't mean anything to me then. Not until later that night when I got a new text message. "Did you see your room?" I didn't recognize the number at first, then realized it was the same one from Craigslist. I didn't reply. 5 minutes later. "She gets mad if no one says goodbye." A cold ripple ran through me. I blocked the number immediately, filed a report on the Craigslist post, and tried to forget about it. But the next day I got curious. I searched the address. Local news, real estate history, anything I could find. It didn't take long. 2 weeks earlier, there had been a murder-suicide at that address. A mother and her daughter, Lila, were found dead in the upstairs bedroom. No foul play suspected. They ruled it a domestic tragedy. The father had been under psychiatric care and reportedly left town just days before it happened. The article mentioned children's toys still left in the house. Detectives were unsure if anyone had entered since. So who posted the Craigslist ad? I checked the site again. The listing was still up. Same message, same number. We're gone. Take what you want. I didn't restore that table. Couldn't. I left it in the garage for weeks, covered by an old blanket. Every time I stepped in to grab tools or scrap wood, I'd feel it. Not see anything, just feel it. Like the air around that piece was thicker, like something weighted beneath it. Eventually, I donated it to a thrift store out in Belgrade. I didn't even ask for a receipt. I stopped collecting Craigslist pieces after that. Stopped going to estate sales. People ask why, and I just say I lost interest. But sometimes, I still scroll, just to see if the ad is there. Sometimes it is. Same house, same words. Take what you want. And every now and then I'll drive by a yard sale and see a rocking horse sitting by itself on the grass. And I swear to God, there's a split second where it looks like it's moving. Not because of the wind, just like that room. That cold room with the dolls, and the name carved under the table. I've spent my life repairing broken things. But there are some things you can't sand down, can't patch over. Some damage isn't meant to be undone. Curiosity can take you places you can't come back from. When something feels off, don't wait for proof. Trust your gut, because not every free gift comes without a cost. And some rooms should never be entered at all. I wasn't supposed to be in this position. That's the thought that kept circling in my head like a drain that wouldn't quite empty. I used to teach art appreciation and basic photography at Madison Community College. My students were mostly kids trying to fulfill gen eds, but I loved it. Introducing them to Diane Arbus, Gordon Parks, teaching them how to see the story in a face. But then came the pandemic, followed by the budget cuts. Then the full-time teaching position became part-time, then gone altogether. By March 2022, I was 27, sleeping with the heat on low to save money, and eating more instant oatmeal than a grown man should admit. I hadn't told my family how bad it had gotten. My sister in Minneapolis thought I was doing gig stuff, and I let her think that. The truth? I was broke, scraping by doing pet portraits and photo editing for a wedding studio that ghosted me more often than they paid me. That's how it started. A Thursday night. I was lying on the couch in my one-bedroom rental, refreshing Craigslist like it owed me something. I wasn't even searching anything specific, just bouncing between creative gigs and etc. That's when I saw the ad. Looking for a male model, 25-35, no experience needed. 1 hour shoot, must be slim fit, $600 cash, discretion required. It had no company name, no contact person, just a Gmail address and a location, 324 Butternut Lane. A weird part of me hoped it was a scam. Like, who pays $600 cash for an hour shoot unless it's porn or a con? Still, I emailed. The reply came quick. The guy's name was Marlon. He said he was an independent photographer working on a personal series about emotional expression. He wanted someone raw, someone ordinary. No modeling experience needed. He attached a photo of the studio. It looked like a basement with warm lighting, cloth backdrops, nothing alarming. He wrote, "You'll be clothed. It's artistic. Quiet work, nothing weird. Paid in cash after the shoot." I sent over a casual photo, me standing in front of a brick wall from an old wedding gig, and said I was available Saturday. We locked it in for 6 p.m. That night, I lay awake thinking about what this job meant. Not what it paid, but what it said about where I was in my life. I was a college-educated man taking a maybe sketchy modeling gig in a stranger's basement for cash. I hadn't told anyone, not my ex, not my sister. It felt like a turning point, a little line that I couldn't uncross once I stepped over. But I needed the money. Saturday came with gray skies and that wet, heavy air that sits in your lungs. I drove to the address in my beat-up Honda Civic, checking my GPS twice. The neighborhood was tucked into the edge of Madison where the houses got older, the lawns patchier, and the windows wore yellowed blinds like tired eyes. 324. Butternut Lane sat behind overgrown hedges, paint peeling from the siding. A rusted mailbox tilted to one side, but the porch light was on. I parked across the street, stared at the house for a solid minute, then got out. I carried nothing but my phone and my ID, told myself I'd be in and out in an hour. The man who answered looked like a librarian from the 90s. Mid-50s, soft voice, gray cardigan over slacks, glasses that kept sliding down his nose. "You're Elliot?" he asked. "Yeah. You Marlon?" He nodded. "Glad you came. A lot of people flake." Inside, the house smelled faintly of bleach and dust. The furniture was sparse. One love seat, a folding chair, a table with nothing on it. No family photos, no clutter, no noise. The silence hit me immediately. No TV, no music, no hum of a dishwasher. Just quiet. He led me to the basement. The stairs were narrow and steep. The studio was dimly lit, like in the photo. Black backdrop. Warm bulbs clipped to tripods. A stool in the center. 2 mannequins in one corner wearing old clothes. A shelf with dusty Polaroid albums. Marlon handed me a white button-up shirt. Unreadable. "Start with this. Sit on the stool. Let your face be." I put it on and sat. He moved around the space with deliberate care, adjusting lighting, checking his digital camera. Then, click. Another. Click. Still no real direction. Then he whispered, "Imagine someone you love just died, but don't cry. Just feel it." I almost laughed. "That's heavy." He didn't respond, just picked up an old SX70 Polaroid camera, snapped a photo. The sound of the film sliding out echoed in the silence. I looked toward the corner. One of the mannequins had a wig. Brown, unkempt, exactly like my hair. The other wore a scarf. My scarf. The green flannel one I lost at a bus stop 2 months ago. I stood up slowly, my heart knocking against my ribs. "Hey, have we met before?" Marlon smiled faintly. "You remind me of someone. From years ago." I moved toward the stairs. "Yeah, I think I'm gonna pass on the rest of the shoot." He stepped in front of the stairs, still calm, still expressionless, signed the release. "Let's just finish the set." "The payment's upstairs. I didn't sign anything." He looked past me. "You should sit back down. I hate wasted shots." That's when I noticed the red dot, a blinking red light on the far wall. A mounted camera had been recording the whole time. I said nothing, just turned and shoved him hard. He stumbled. I took the stairs 2 at a time, hit the front door, locked, no bolt, electronic. Behind me, footsteps. "There's no reason to panic," he called softly. "The rate. You're safe. Just 1 more hour and I'll double." I ran for the kitchen. The side door opened to a corridor lined with thick curtains. No drywall, no windows. This was no real house. It was a set. At the end of the corridor stood a mannequin, dressed exactly like me, down to my shoes. I didn't scream. I backed up, ran to the laundry room, grabbed a detergent bottle, and smashed the small window. My arm tore open as I climbed out. I sprinted barefoot into the dark. Didn't look back. The police came after a neighbor called about a bleeding man on the sidewalk. I told them everything. The ad, the man, the basement. When they arrived at 324 Butternut, the house was empty. No furniture, no mannequins, no cameras, no Marlon. The neighbors didn't know who lived there. Said the house had been vacant for months. The Craigslist ad was gone. The Gmail address bounced back. I gave them everything. Nothing came of it. I stayed with a friend for a week, changed my number, deleted all my social media. I took down every photo of myself I could find. I stopped doing freelance gigs for strangers. I stopped answering unknown numbers. I stopped trusting silence. The cuts on my arm took a month to heal. The shame lasted longer. It's been 2 years. I work part-time at a framing shop now, still in Madison. I make enough to get by. No more sketchy side jobs. No more chasing desperation down dark hallways. Sometimes when the store's slow, I think about that night. I replay the moments. How easily I walked into a trap for $600. How familiar that house felt. How calm he was. I've tried to explain it to myself a dozen different ways. Maybe he was just a lonely man with weird hobbies. Maybe it was worse than that. I don't know. I never will. I keep a Polaroid camera on my desk now. Not to use, just to remind me. I keep my curtains open. I take photos only of landscapes, never people. And I never ever go alone to a stranger's house for anything. Desperation clouds judgment, and danger often hides behind normal faces and ordinary offers. Trust your instincts, even when it costs you. Especially when it costs you. I wasn't always like this. I used to sleep like a rock, the kind of person who could pass out with a movie blaring and wake up 10 hours later without a single memory of tossing or turning. That changed in the summer of 2023, sometime after my relationship fell apart, and my lease ended in the same week. I'm 31 now. Back then, I was sleeping in my car with a half-dead laptop and a pillow that smelled like gym bags and stale coffee. I worked as a freelance photo retoucher, editing bridal portraits and fake smile family shoots for people I'd never meet. It paid enough for gas and bad coffee, and most nights, I'd find a half-safe street in Oakland and try not to look too parked. One of those nights, parked on the corner of Webster and 33rd, I sat in the driver's seat of my Civic, scrolling Craigslist with frozen fingers. I was down to 160, no clients for the week, and no place to crash. I'd already called in favors. My backup couch in San Leandro was taken. I was worn out in a way that didn't just feel tired, it felt heavy, like I'd been dragging parts of my life behind me that didn't want to come. That's when I saw the ad. Roommate needed, rent negotiable, must be clean, quiet, night workers welcome, house is spacious, no pets, no photos, just a street name I recognized and a contact email. I almost ignored it, but then I saw the price. Rent, $300 month, utilities included. I sent an email without thinking. 2 hours later, at 2:07 a.m., I got a reply. Name's Derek, come by Friday. You can move in this weekend. I work nights, looking for someone quiet during the day. I didn't ask more questions than I needed to. I didn't care about decor or square footage, or who Derek was. I just wanted out of the car. I just wanted a bed. Friday came fast. I brushed my teeth in a Starbucks bathroom and drove across town. The house was tucked behind a mechanic's garage on a street with potholes big enough to eat your tires. It was pale yellow once, but time had worn it to the color of old bones. The windows were covered in cardboard and blackout curtains. A wind chime on the porch jingled without wind. Derek met me at the door. Average height, late 30s, glasses, khakis. He didn't say much, gave me a once-over, and turned without a word. I followed. Just you and me, he said, unlocking the door. Don't go into my room. Ever. I nodded. The house smelled faintly of bleach and wood that hadn't breathed in years. My room was small. Mattress on the floor, old dresser, no closet, no mirror. Bathrooms down the hall, Derek said. Rings. It's not for you. Laundry's in the garage. Don't answer the landline if it... I hesitated at that. Still have a landline? He didn't answer. Just walked to his room and closed the door. By the time I laid down that night, I figured I could handle it. I'd slept in worse places. What I didn't realize was that this wasn't just a weird living situation. It was something else entirely. The first week passed like a half-remembered dream. Derek worked night shifts, or so he said. I never saw him leave. I'd wake up around noon, heat up whatever I could microwave, and scroll my inbox for new gigs. My rhythm was off, but it was better than a car seat and gas station sandwiches. The house stayed quiet. Too quiet. No TV, no music, no footsteps overhead. Just the hum of the fridge and the occasional sound of keys being dropped at the door around 6 every evening. I tried not to think too hard about it. But by the second week, small things started standing out. The smell of bleach. It wasn't there all the time, just sometimes. Like someone had scrubbed a small spot too hard. The scent hung in the hallway, sometimes stronger near Derek's room. I thought about asking him but didn't want to start anything. Then there were the objects. Tiny shifts in the kitchen. My cereal box was lighter. My coffee mug would be moved from the drying rack to the sink but dry. One time, I thought it was in my dream at first. But as I lay there staring at the dark, I realized the sound was real. Low, shallow, just outside my bedroom door. It didn't move. It didn't fade. It just breathed. Steady. Like someone standing there, not sure what to do next. I couldn't breathe. I didn't move. I waited. Eventually, it stopped. I must have fallen asleep again because I woke up in the morning with the sheets damp from sweat. I asked Derek casually that afternoon, "Hey, were you up last night around like 3?" He looked at me blankly. "I work nights, remember?" He went back to his room. That's when I broke the one rule. I picked up the landline. The receiver was dusty, but when I put it to my ear, there was a dial tone. I redialed the last number. It rang once, then silence, then it cut. I tried to keep to myself after that. I started wearing headphones when I slept, kept a flashlight next to my mattress. I didn't trust the locks on the doors. There were no visible deadbolts, just the thin twist knobs that never really kept anything out. Then came Tuesday. I remember it was raining that night. Not heavy, just enough to turn the windows into a soft hum. I had just started to drift off when I heard a click, the sound of my door opening. It didn't creak, it didn't bang, it just opened, smooth and slow. I sat up fast, my throat clenched. I stared into the hallway. It was pitch black, and then I heard it. A whisper. "You're too noisy at night." It didn't sound like Derek. It didn't sound like anyone I knew. It sounded small, like a child who knew too much. I flipped on the light. Nothing. No one. The door was ajar. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I sat on the mattress holding the flashlight in one hand and my phone in the other, debating whether to call the cops or just walk out and never come back. The next morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I knocked on Derek's door. He opened it, barely, just enough to show one eye and part of his face. He looked pale, tired. "Are you messing with me?" I asked. "Because if this is some kind of thing, I'm leaving." He looked at me for a long time, then said, past my door, "I don't sleep anymore either. It used to only walk." He paused, "But now it's curious about yours." I didn't wait. I packed everything I owned into 2 duffel bags and left before noon. I didn't say goodbye. Derek didn't come out of his room. I didn't hear the wind chime as I left, just the rain, soft and even, falling on the roof. I parked at a diner down the street just long enough to catch my breath. I don't know why, but something pulled at me. I went back. I told myself it was to grab the charger I might have left. But when I stepped back inside, the house felt colder. Still empty. Derek was gone, his room door open for the first time. I didn't go in. Instead, I noticed something near the living room rug. A bulge. I lifted the corner. Underneath, folded carefully, was a single Polaroid. It showed a man around my age sleeping in the same position I slept in. Same room, same mattress, same stained sheets. On the back, scrawled in blocky handwriting, it read, "Tried the same thing, didn't listen, still noisy." I reported it anonymously, told the cops about the address, the ad, the man, the photo. They said they'd look into it. A week later, I checked Craigslist. Same ad, same words, new date. I never went back to that part of Oakland. I moved in with a friend in Richmond for a while, found part-time work at a print lab that didn't ask questions, started sleeping with a door wedge, even when I wasn't alone. Some nights I still hear it, that shallow breathing, that whisper, "You're too noisy at night." And when I close my eyes, I see the face in the Polaroid, not the one sleeping, the one standing behind him. No amount of desperation is worth ignoring your instincts. Cheap rent isn't a gift, it's a gamble. And sometimes silence isn't peace, it's warning. People don't really talk about what it feels like to start over at 34. It isn't brave. It isn't liberating. It's mostly paperwork, lowered expectations, and a lot of eating canned soup over the sink while checking your bank account for the 5th time in one day. After my divorce, I moved out of Portland and landed in Tacoma, Washington, in a 1-bedroom apartment above a liquor store with a broken intercom and the constant smell of cigarettes seeping through the walls. My ex got the car. I got the rest, which wasn't saying much. I made my money doing remote transcription gigs, mostly medical lectures, some legal depositions. Not glamorous work and not particularly steady. I lived by my calendar and by the little green payment icons in my account. Some weeks I'd skip groceries just to make rent on time. I told myself it was temporary, that something better was coming. But after the 7th job rejection in 2 months, even that lie started feeling hollow. It was a rainy Tuesday when I came across the Craigslist ad. I wasn't looking for anything exciting, just a data entry temp job or a dog walking gig. But then I saw it. Quiet woman needed to house sit for 10 days. No cleaning or errands, just occupy the space. $900 flat. Private home. Must be discreet. Ideal for writers or people who work from home. Room plus full kitchen plus Wi-Fi. It felt oddly formal, but gentle. The phrase "just occupy the space" stood out to me. Like they didn't want help, they wanted presence. I refreshed the post 3 times just to make sure it was still there. Then I sent an email. 3 hours later, I got a response from someone named Marissa. She said she was flying to Maine to care for her mother and needed someone to keep the energy in the house from collapsing. That was how she phrased it. Not take care of it, not watch over it, just keep the energy. She called that evening. Her voice was calm and slow, almost like someone trying not to wake a sleeping child. She asked if I was quiet, if I lived alone, if I could follow simple instructions. I said yes to all 3. Then she gave me only 2 rules. Please don't move any furniture, she said, and please don't go into the basement. I asked why. She said, it's sealed. There's mold. It's a health issue. I didn't press. 2 days later, I took the 10 bus to a quiet neighborhood near Ruston Way. I rolled my suitcase down a shaded sidewalk, past manicured hedges and quiet homes, until I found hers. The house was beautiful. 2 stories, painted pale gray with white trim. It looked like something out of a lifestyle blog. Older, but well cared for. There were candles in every room, even the kitchen. Some were lit already, wax dripping softly into antique holders. Marissa met me at the door. Tall, pale, maybe late 40s. No makeup. Her hair was pinned back, but a few strands hung loose. She didn't shake my hand, just gave me a quick tour. Sticky notes were placed on walls and furniture. Don't unplug this. Keep this window slightly open. Leave this light on after dark. I asked if she had a checklist. She smiled. The house tells you what it needs. She handed me the keys and her number, said she'd be back on the 11th. Then she left without a hug or goodbye. Just walked down the steps, got into a rust-colored sedan, and drove off. I stood there alone in the foyer, surrounded by soft candlelight and silence. And for a little while, it felt perfect. The first few days were peaceful, almost unnervingly so. The house had thick walls that muffled sound, and I found myself working long hours at the dining room table, the only sound being the slow tick of a ceramic clock above the mantel. My email inbox was quiet, which was typical. I spent my breaks reading old novels from the bookshelf in the living room, all paperbacks with worn covers and cracked spines. Someone had loved them before I got here. At night, I made tea and sat on the back porch under a canopy of ivy. I didn't hear sirens or car alarms, no footsteps above or below me, just wind and birds and the quiet hum of streetlights in the distance. For the first time in months, I didn't feel crushed by noise. I stopped taking Ambien. I started sleeping through the night, until the fourth night. I woke up at 3:11 a.m. I remember the time exactly because I checked the glowing red digits of the alarm clock. Something felt off, like the air had thickened. My skin felt clammy, even though the room wasn't hot. I sat up, heart thudding, and saw that the hallway light, right by the basement door, was off. I had left it on. I remembered clearly. I got up, walked quietly down the hallway, and flipped the switch. The light flickered on instantly. The door looked the same, shut. No sounds. I shook my head, went back to bed, and tried not to overthink it. The next night it happened again. Same time, same light off. I replaced the bulb the next morning just in case, but that night, off again. That's when I started wondering if maybe Marissa had a smart home setup I didn't know about, or maybe timers. But the switches were manual, no fancy gadgets, just old school fixtures. Then I noticed something else. A small scrape on the doorknob of the basement. Thin, almost like someone had tried to wedge something in the lock. Just once, carefully. I texted Marissa, tried to keep it casual. Hey, small scratch on basement door. FYI, house is great though. No reply. I checked again before bed. Still no message. And that night, I heard humming. It was low and far away, the kind of sound that almost blends with the wind if you're not listening closely. But I knew where it came from. I pressed my ear to the basement door. It stopped instantly. I spent most of the sixth day walking around the house with this slow-building unease in my gut. Nothing major had happened, just flickering lights. One strange sound, but it was the way those things didn't match the peace I felt before. Like a warm bath cooling slowly until it's cold enough to make you shiver. I looked at the sticky notes again. Don't unplug this. Leave this curtain drawn. Keep hallway light on at night. They weren't reminders. They were warnings. I spent the afternoon working, pretending not to hear anything, ignoring the itch in my brain that kept pulling my eyes toward the basement. I ate dinner on the porch, took a shower, tried to sleep, but the air in the house had changed. That night, I had a dream. I was standing at the top of the basement stairs, holding a candle. The door was open and the stairs didn't end, they just kept going down and down, spiraling. I thought I heard someone calling from below. When I tried to answer, I couldn't speak. I woke up gasping, sweat soaking the collar of my shirt. I stayed up with all the lights on. The next day I tried to call Marissa again. The number was disconnected. On the ninth night, I made the mistake. I told myself I wasn't going to open the door. I wasn't even going to touch the knob, I just wanted to walk past it, just to prove to myself that it was still just a door. But when I walked by, I stopped. There was dust near the bottom of the door, fresh, disturbed, like someone had opened it just slightly, from the inside. My heart dropped. I couldn't explain it, but something in my body said, run. I texted her again. Marissa, did someone else have a key? Has anyone else stayed here before me? No response, not even a delivery confirmation. I went to the bedroom, heart pounding, and started packing. I didn't know where I'd go, but I couldn't stay. The air felt charged, like the moments before a thunderclap. I shoved clothes into a bag, grabbed my laptop and charger, and threw on a coat. As I turned to leave, my foot hit something under the bed. A book. I bent down. It was a tattered paperback. The title had been scratched off. Inside the front cover was a note, written shakily in smeared blue ink. She never leaves town. If you're reading this, she's already watching. Don't listen to the door. It lies. I froze. My ears started ringing. My mouth went dry. And then I ran. I didn't stop driving until I hit a gas station south of Olympia. I parked near the edge, under a flickering light, and sat with my head on the steering wheel. I didn't cry at first. I just sat there, heart racing, trying to catch up to the fear that had already filled my body like smoke in a sealed room. The next day, I filed a report online with the rental site Marissa had used for payments. I didn't use her full name. I didn't even know if that was her real name. But I reported the house, the listing, the rules. I checked Craigslist that night. The ad was back. Same wording, same pay, same no cleaning line, same just occupy the space. I called the number from a payphone, disconnected. I never went back. Now I live in a newer apartment. Everything is modern, clean, boring. I don't take house-sitting gigs anymore. I don't answer ads that sound too gentle, and I never, ever leave a light off near a closed door. Because even now, when the house is quiet and everything is calm, I still count the candles every morning, just to make sure none are missing. Sometimes the easiest money comes with the cost of your peace. Trust your instincts. If a place asks for your silence, it's probably hiding something that screams. People think horror stories start with a scream or a shadowy figure in the hallway, but in my experience, they start quietly, casually even. Mine started with a Craigslist ad and a desperate need to finish my senior thesis. I was 23 at the time, finishing my final semester at SCAD in Savannah. I was deep into sound design, ambience, environmental tension, layered audio that could shape a viewer's nerves without ever showing a single jump scare. I wasn't aiming for Hollywood explosions or monster growls. I wanted to make people lean in and listen harder, feel something crawling up their spine from nothing but sound. But I had a problem. I needed a location to record in, somewhere quiet, old, echoey. Savannah's got plenty of old buildings, but most of them were either too pricey to rent or restricted. I'd already struck out with 2 studio sessions, and my backup plan, using a friend's family barn, turned out to be ruined by traffic noise. It was a Tuesday night around midnight. I was lying on my apartment floor with my laptop, barely awake, trawling Craigslist. I'd been scrolling for hours when I saw it. Need help documenting sound in old coastal house. 400 day, 1-day project, bring equipment, house is empty, owner out of town, must sign basic waiver. I clicked. The poster used only initials, G. Millard. The listing included an address on Tybee Island, right off the Georgia coast. Not too far, just a 30-minute drive from where I lived. I thought maybe it was a local artist trying to preserve their childhood home or something. The kind of project I respected. A place with character. I sent a short email introducing myself. Within 20 minutes, I got a reply. Millard said the house had belonged to his great-aunt, who passed the previous year. Said it hadn't been touched in months, but he wanted to preserve its sonic character before the remodelers came in. His last line read, "You're welcome to record anything you want. Just don't move anything, and don't open the closet in the master bedroom." That last part? I figured it was about privacy or mold. I didn't ask questions. I needed the money. I needed the sounds. I agreed to go out there the following Saturday. The drive to Tybee Island that Saturday morning was beautiful. Sunlight bouncing off the marsh, sea breeze slipping through the cracked window of my beat-up Corolla. It was the kind of quiet that made you think nothing bad could possibly happen. When I pulled up to the address, it didn't feel like horror movie material, just forgotten. The shutters were crooked, porch steps bowed from years of humidity, and everything was wrapped in Spanish moss that moved with the wind like it was breathing. The front door was unlocked, just like the email said. No one was there. I walked in slow. The air smelled like old polish and wood rot, like a museum that hadn't been visited in a long time. Sunlight filtered through the dust. The place was dead silent. I mean, truly silent. No creaking pipes, no fridge humming, just me in the house. I started recording right away. The stairs creaked with perfect weight, each step different. Floorboards gave under my heels like they remembered someone else's steps. Even the wind, pushing through the cracked windows, made these soft, sad whistles I couldn't have designed in post. Around noon, I moved upstairs to capture natural reverb in the master bedroom. That's when I noticed it, the closet door. It was already ajar. It wasn't dramatic or anything, just slightly open, enough to show darkness behind it. I remembered the email, "Don't open the closet," but I figured it was just about not disturbing the space. I didn't need to move anything, just wanted to get a clean room tone. I slipped my lav mic inside, hit record, and stepped back. 5 minutes, no movement. I stopped the track and hit playback. The first 30 seconds were clean. Then I heard it. A voice, whispering, soft, but distinct. "Don't record me." I paused, listened again. It was right there. No interference, no reverb, no wind. I double-checked the file timestamp. It had just been recorded. No other takes on the SD card with that voice. I don't scare easily. I've worked on horror sets, heard weird late-night building noises. But this chilled me. I packed my gear fast, threw everything back into my case. That's when my phone buzzed. A text. From the same number G. Millard used. "You weren't supposed to go in the closet." I hadn't told anyone I opened it. Not even my professor. I hadn't posted, hadn't texted. I didn't respond. I made it home that night around 7. I didn't tell anyone what happened. I was still trying to logic my way through it. Maybe the house had a weird echo, or I picked up a radio signal. Still, curiosity got the best of me. I loaded the files onto my laptop, just to scrub through the audio and calm myself down. Most of the recordings were clean, rich textures, solid presence, until I hit the last track. The one I made when I whispered into the mic before leaving. "Leaving now. Thanks for nothing." That part was still there, but 10 seconds later, in the quiet, I heard something else. Another whisper. "See you again soon, Dylan." I didn't say that. I didn't even think it. I slammed the laptop shut, sat in silence. The next morning, I tried calling the number. Disconnected. I went back to Craigslist. The ad was gone, entirely wiped. No cache, no archive. It had vanished. For a while, I didn't do anything. Didn't record. Didn't edit. I ignored emails from my professor about the project. I couldn't explain why. Just this sense that I'd brought something home with me. Weeks passed. I didn't tell my classmates. I figured they'd laugh or worse, think I'd cracked under thesis stress. But something changed after that trip. Every time I plugged in my gear, even for unrelated projects, I'd get interference. Static at first, then fragments, low tones that didn't belong, feedback loops that seemed to mimic breathing patterns. Then, one night while testing sound for another short, I picked up whispering again. Soft, rhythmic, like lullabies in reverse. One word stood out. Cross. My last name. The audio was unusable. I started returning gear. Told my advisor I was shifting the direction of my project. He didn't ask questions. By then I wasn't sleeping much. Dreams became vivid. Always the same setting. An old house with a door I couldn't close. Always a voice behind it. "Don't record me." I tried to forget. Told myself I imagined it. I moved apartments, deleted the original files, even gave up on the sound design path. I'm working a commercial job now, editing product videos and podcasts. But last week I got a package. No return address. Inside an SD card. I plugged it in. Just one file. A low hum, like the ocean inside a tunnel. Then, my voice. "Leaving now. Thanks for nothing." And again, the whisper. "We're not done, Dylan." I don't use Craigslist anymore. I don't record anything, not even voice memos. I hear the voice sometimes through my phone's speaker, even when it's off. And I know, it followed me. Because it wasn't about the house. It was about me pressing record. Curiosity can be powerful, but without caution it becomes an invitation. Not every opportunity is a gift, and not every silence is empty. Some doors, literal or digital, are better left unopened. When you're scraping by, you learn how to make do. You learn to sleep on couches, repurpose old milk crates into bookshelves, and dig through Craigslist like it's a lifeline, because sometimes it is. My name is Kendra Malloy. I'm 41, recently separated, living with my 6-year-old son Milo in a rented duplex in Kaisertown, a quiet working-class patch of Buffalo where nothing much happens, at least nothing anyone talks about. Before the divorce, I worked part-time and spent my afternoons picking Milo up from school and making dinner by 5. Now I work 2 jobs just to keep the lights on: cashier at a pharmacy Monday through Friday, and a bakery shift at Wegmans every Saturday and Sunday morning. After my husband left last fall, bags packed on a Sunday night without so much as a conversation, I moved us out within a week. I found a small place I could afford alone. It wasn't much, but it was clean and safe, and it had a little patch of backyard just big enough for Milo to play in when the weather was kind. We had almost nothing when we moved. Milo had been sleeping on just a mattress on the floor since November. It gnawed at me. Every time I tucked him in, he asked me when he was going to get a real bed like other kids. I told him soon, but the truth was, after bills and groceries, there was no soon. There was only Craigslist. I'd found some decent stuff there over the years: a used high chair, an old chest of drawers, even a microwave that lasted 3 years. So when I saw the ad for a twin oak frame bed for $40, I didn't hesitate. The photo showed a clean, disassembled frame, warm wood, no scratches, resting against a white wall. The description was short and to the point: leaving town, must go by Sunday, no holds, no delivery, message if serious only. I messaged the guy immediately. He replied fast, said his name was Alex. He was moving out that weekend, couldn't hold the bed for anyone, and needed it picked up that same night, around 9 at the latest. 9 o'clock wasn't ideal. It was already after dark by then, and the pickup was near Bailey Avenue on the more industrial edge of the city. But I had a car, and I'd done worse. Milo was staying with our upstairs neighbor for a sleepover, and I figured it would only take 20 minutes. In and out. I threw on my hoodie, grabbed my purse, and headed out around 8:30, telling myself I'd be back before 9:30. I didn't bring anyone with me. I should have. But when you've spent years doing everything by yourself, you don't always stop to ask who else should be there. You just go. I had no idea that something so normal, so everyday, would turn into a nightmare I still haven't shaken. The street Alex gave me wasn't hard to find, but it didn't look like much. Cracked sidewalks, dim porch lights barely flickering in the rain. It wasn't full-on rundown, just worn out, like the houses in the street and the air itself had given up trying to look inviting. I pulled up slowly, double-checked the number. The house sat 2 doors down from the corner. A single-family place. No lights on, no car in the driveway. The porch light was dead, but the steps looked recently swept. Something about it struck me as too quiet. Not dangerous, just still. Like a house that knew you were there before you even knocked. I parked, left the car running, and texted, "I'm outside." He responded seconds later. "Come in. Door's unlocked. Bed is disassembled and waiting by the stairs." That gave me pause. I'd expected him to bring the frame to the porch, or at least meet me at the door. I stood there for a full minute, debating whether to just leave. But I needed that bed. I couldn't tell Milo I came home empty-handed again. So I went in. The door creaked open. Inside smelled like damp wood, like a cabin after a storm. There were no lights on, but a faint glow came from the street lamp behind me, enough to see the outlines of furniture, a table, a chair, a coat rack leaning slightly left. I called out, "Alex, hello?" Nothing, but the bed was there, disassembled like he said. Leaning neatly against the staircase, frame, slats, screws in a Ziploc. On top was a small white envelope with my name on it, printed in neat capital letters, Kendra. I hesitated before opening it. Inside was $40 in 20s and a Polaroid. I pulled it out. It was a picture of me, standing on the porch, taken maybe 30 seconds earlier. I went cold. The only reason I didn't scream was because my voice didn't work. I stood there, heart jackhammering, staring at that photo like it was a hallucination. It wasn't. Same clothes, same lighting, same angle, taken from inside the house just behind the curtain near the front window. My hands trembled as I shoved the money and photo back into the envelope and stepped backward toward the door. But the door that had been cracked open behind me wasn't just closed now, it was jammed. I twisted the knob, pulled, even shoved my shoulder into it. Nothing. That's when I heard it. A man's voice, low and slow, coming from upstairs. "You looked better in your work uniform, Kendra." I froze. My name, my uniform. He couldn't have known that. My work shirt had my name tag, but I wasn't wearing it. Not tonight. Another voice came from the hallway, closer this time. Different pitch, like someone younger. "She smells different than the last one." Something cracked inside me. Not just fear, rage. I spun around, scanning the space. That's when I noticed them. The hallway mirrors, thin and tall, about shoulder width, mounted side by side like panels. But they weren't normal. They didn't reflect properly. The angles were off, and behind one of them, movement. A shadow, like someone was standing just beyond the glass, watching. I didn't think. I just acted. I grabbed one of the bed slats, solid oak, and swung it at the nearest mirror. It shattered instantly, glass raining down in a sheet of sparks. But what was behind it wasn't a wall. It was a crawl space, a narrow, dark passage carved behind the drywall, lined with exposed studs and insulation, and just wide enough for someone to hide inside. Someone was inside. They ran. I caught a blur. Black hoodie, sneakers, pale face, disappearing into the darkness behind the next mirror panel. Another slat, another swing, another shattering mirror, another passage. How long had it been there? How many rooms did it run through? How many people had walked into this house and not walked out? I didn't stay to find out. I ran full force at the door, threw my weight against it. The wood cracked, then gave. I fell through onto the porch, scrambled to my feet, and sprinted to my car. I didn't even look behind me. I peeled away from that curb, tires screeching like something from a movie. Back at home, Milo was asleep on the couch, curled up under a blanket with cartoons still playing on low volume. I stood there for a full minute just watching him breathe, my hands still shaking. I locked every door and window that night, and I didn't sleep. The next morning I filed a report. I told the police everything. The photo, the voices, the crawl space, the mirror, even the exact address. They sent someone out. I waited by the phone all day. When they called back, the officer's voice was tired, skeptical. They found nothing, he said. No mirrors, no crawl space, no bed. The house was completely empty, vacant, no utilities, no record of an Alex ever owning or renting it. I sent Craigslist a copy of the ad, but it was already gone. Flagged, removed, scrubbed. Just another ghost ad on the internet. Now I buy furniture in daylight, in public, preferably in parking lots with cameras. I haven't stepped into a stranger's house since. But sometimes, when I'm picking Milo up from school, I get this feeling, this itch between my shoulders, that someone's watching. Like I'm in another mirror I can't see yet. And every now and then I wonder, what if I hadn't picked up that photo? Desperation makes us take chances, but not every door is worth opening. What seems like a good deal might cost more than you're willing to pay. Trust your instincts, and never walk into silence without knowing who's listening.